So it's 18 years now of a lot of hypnosis story. And it started in 2003. In 2005, I had the chance to do my first uh, clinical training on hypnotherapy. And that's when everything started to get professional. And I started to work with people doing hypnotherapy, change work. And in 2007, I had a chance to meet Gerald Kine in US. So in 2007, I started to get in touch with Dave Elman's methods. And when Cheryl asked me to talk at the conference, I immediately thought about talking about the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about Dave Elman, Gerald Kine, in our hypnotherapy work, that is the causes of our problems. And I'm pretty sure you have already heard a lot about regression and how we should work with an emotion, trying to trace it back to where it came from. So I'd like to talk and go a bit deeper into this topic, talking about the neuroscience behind all this. So you just talked about love and fear. It's interesting when you start to study this theory of constructed emotions, you will see that love and fear are words that we use to make sense of sensory information with different contexts and different learnings of meanings. It's awesome.
Through hypnosis, through the use of Elman's style of hypnosis, I helped that man. It took a long time. It wasn't a fix it in one session, fix it in 2 to 6 sessions. No, he was in the last third or the third third of it takes years, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, because they stop, they start, and I'm in that category when it comes to things I'm stubborn about. And then there's 10% of the people we can't help. So when people call you, this is not an Elman's work, and they say, how long do you think it'll take? Oh, I don't know. 30% of the people get what they need from me in one session. Are you in a hurry? Maybe. Okay, 30% of the people take 2 to 6 sessions. So they got some little bitty things that bother them, and one thing after another thing, and 2 to 6 sessions, and they're done. You think you're that fast? Yeah, maybe. Okay, and then 30% of the people stop and start and stop and start and stop and start. And they're stubborn fools like me. They're not go fast boats that turn fast. They're ocean liners that take a long time to turn. You think you're in that category? And a lot of people will go like, I am stubborn and I am opinionated and I do want it that way. Like, okay. And then there's 10% of the people I can't help. Do you think you're in that category? No, I'm calling you. Like, okay, it's not you calling because your wife wants you to call me, right? You're calling me because you want to do it yourself. So I don't guarantee people results, and I don't guarantee them how much time it's going to take to get results because I don't know who's coming in the door.
This process of bringing them in, needing something that I knew was going to work, and it became habit where I was using a kind of a modified Elman induction where when I would take their right arm and lift it and drop it, I'd go over to the side of the chair. And what I would do is what we know in the NGH is the second depth test of, say, arm catalepsy, but not stiff arm like a bar. I mean, your arm is locked into that chair. Now I'm going to try to lift your left arm by your wrist, but I won't be able to. As a matter of fact, the more I try, the more difficult it becomes. And I would pull on it, and I'd pull, and if it didn't just come up and it was stuck like that, then I know I'm using 2-in-1 here. I'm using the Elman induction, but I'm also throwing in a depth test at that same time. And this became kind of routine, So I knew that no matter what I did, no matter what new induction, no matter what I tried that I thought was going to work for this personality and just kind of didn't click, I could always go back to that. So it's okay to fly on the trapeze when you know there's a net. But when you fall for the trapeze, be like a kid and know it's going to be a real fun time, not panic because you just fell off the trapeze. So the panic is gone when you know you're going to be caught, when you know there's something there, right? So this is how I was using the Dave Elman induction. But what led me to it was in the beginning, I was told a few things, and whatever we're told, we think, well, that's it. But this part never changed. How many times have we heard that hypnotherapy, that green hardcover book by Dave Elman, is the Bible of hypnotherapy. I was like, really? However, I've never done a 3 drag off my cigarette because I was smoking induction. So it goes to show you what was going on back when, right? But the Dave Elman induction gives you the opportunity to know that you have something that's proven. It's a fail-safe. It's that safety net that you can use whenever you're at a loss. So there's that. You got progressive relaxation, modified, I hope, shrunk down to 5 minutes instead of 20, and guided imagery maybe. But those are go-tos. But what's good about the Elman induction, it includes so much that you're getting more done in less time rather than spending the time to do X and then Y and then Z.
I'll be honest. I personally wasn't an athlete myself. I was a cheerleader. And so at the time, as much as we thought we were really great, it wasn't super competitive like it is now. Now I see cheerleaders. There's a lot of pressure and performance anxiety with cheerleaders because they're a lot more competitive. But what I found is that you're going to have, when you're working with high performers and athletes, there's athletes that might come in your door and you don't have the first idea about their sport. You don't have any idea. Like I had a lacrosse player come in. I was like, okay, I don't have any lacrosse area in our area. So a couple of tips that I use is first, before they come in, I will just easily Google affirmations for lacrosse players, right? Super easy. I then sound like I know a little bit about what maybe their techniques are that they want to improve on or what the game looks like. And then secondly, I tell every athlete, and I believe this with all of my heart, I'm the mental teacher. I'm going to teach you how to be your own mental coach. I'm the expert in how to manage your mind. You know your sport. And so there's no worry about anyone that comes in, is they know what they need to do. They've spent hundreds of thousands of hours. Most of these athletes, if they come in, it's because they're really good. And because the youth, the high school, the collegiate, it's because their parents believe in them so much. And so they're spending thousands of dollars a season. They're going to pay you up to thousands of dollars to work with athletes, to work with their mental mind, to teach them to be their own mental coach.
There's so many levels of people being stuck, which is where regression comes in. I mean, it's not just one thing. I mean, people are stuck in this, so sometimes, a lot of times it comes from a very basic traumatic event where you're stuck, that's really changed your life and you're reacting to that. When you can regress to that feeling of not being loved, to that feeling, maybe you were molested, that they have lots of different tentacles to that event. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, As I'm talking, I'm going, yeah, that's what it is. It's that one event, but that one event has lots of different tentacles, and you need to deal with those tentacles, So let's say, just for me, because I can talk about myself, so that not being in control had me exhibit lots of self-destructive behaviors. So it wasn't just that dealing with that one event. It was, then this happened, right? I got raped by my mom's boyfriend because I was over-sexualized, right? And then how did that affect my life? And how do I release that? And then, and that other thing that happened because of that, right? And so there are all these different places that need to be released. And then people need help in sticking to that plan of changing their life, because they've learned the old ways. And so we have to learn new ways, and we have to support them. And that's why I feel that the coaching is, because you can really make a change. Then maybe something else creeps into your life, right? Then, your husband dies, or you get divorced, and you start going back to those old behaviors because they're more embedded, right? Literally, it's like there's a road where they're embedded, and you're on a new road and you're stuck in the mud again, right? And so that's where we can help them be accountable, so it can be coaching, it could be accountability, and it varies from person to person.
One of the reasons regression got a bad rap in the 1980s and 1990s is because people were not as aware of the risk of false memories back in the late 20th century as we are today. We don't always remember things accurately when emotions are involved. For example, any parent of 2 or more siblings knows that they can give a different version of the same event just minutes after it happens. Or 2 children witnessing a fight in the schoolyard can give a teacher different versions just minutes after it happens. When emotions are involved, we do not always remember things correctly. So anytime I believe that regression is indicated for a client, I'll give a short pre-talk. And let me say at the offset that as much of a believer as I am in the use of hypnotic regression therapy as an effective means of discovering the core cause of a problem, I only use regression when it's indicated. Probably not more than 30 to 40% of all of my clients I've seen during my years of practice have ever experienced hypnotic regression therapy. A lot of people respond well to just a good approach. And there are many different ways to go from Los Angeles to New York. Likewise, there are many different ways to help people achieve a goal. So whatever technique you choose to use, if it's productive for the client and if you have successes with it, go for it. But it's a good idea professionally to have techniques in your toolkit, such as regression therapy and parts therapy or a variation of parts therapy, so that you can help people who do not have the ability to have a lasting success from a good script or a positive approach or whatever approach you choose to use.
Don't get yourself burned out trying to help everybody. Get down to your niche. But Grant, what happens if I work on my niche? That means I'm going to lose out on all those clients. No, it doesn't. It means your advertising costs do that because you're communicating to a small niche. By the way, there's millions of people in any niche, more than you can handle in your life. But does that mean you miss out on those other people? No. Because if I work at a certain niche, let's say it's smoking cessation, which it isn't, but let's say it's smoking cessation for retired naval engineers in the San Francisco area, aged between 58 and 57, 58 and 63, and they read Forbes magazine, for example. Fine. Once you've done hypnosis for that person, what about their wife? What about the friend, the guy in the bar, the guy at the golf club, the other guys? They'll still recommend you. Say, oh, can you do weight loss? And then you can say, no, I recommend you to somebody else, or yeah, sure. Okay. You pay and market to a niche, but you can help anyone you want. Okay. So if that helps you with your fear of losing out, there is no fear of losing out. It just makes your target message easier, and you communicate to them. And your colors can help you do that. So check out your brand. So with that, you want to look at your values. What are your values? What are your non-negotiables in the way you want to run your practice? From that, you can work out the colors, and that should be on your banners behind you.
Now, I knew that if I want to develop a reliable teen induction, I must understand in depth the Dave Elman induction. And already long time ago, this was a very, very valuable lecture for me. It's called The Blueprint. It's from the Dave Elman Hypnosis Institute. It's the blueprint for the Dave Elman induction. Here in my hand, it is in German. but it exists also in English. And this little pamphlet here, we have Larry. It is Larry as the son of Dave Elman who has written this blueprint. And my brother, who is Hans-Rudi Wipf, he's also present there. Hello, Hans-Rudi. This induction, this blueprint gives one a really, really in-depth understanding of the Dave Elman induction, because the induction, the Dave Elman induction, is not just a hypnotic script, but it is a process. And I think that's the important thing, the fascinating thing behind the Dave Elman induction, the process behind it. And this blueprint gave me a lot of in-depth understanding. And I'm sure you can get, by the way, you can get it from Cheryl and from Larry from the Dave Elman Hypnosis Institute. So they are the official authors, and Hans wrote the pre-word.
We're very, very happy you're with us. You have a very fetching topic today. It's about Elman and sex and something else. Let's see, what is it called? Sex and breast cancer. Wow.
Sex therapy after breast cancer it's complicated. The focus I use is to reconcile their sexual identity with their identity as a cancer patient, and usually it's like an either or. Many women feel it's an either or. I was sexual and now I have cancer, so I can't be sexual, or my vagina is dry, so I can't have intercourse, or I don't want to because it doesn't feel good, and now I have to be mad and sad about that. And there are so many daily reminders of their sickness, especially in October. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it is extremely triggering for a lot of breast cancer survivors. Some of them just want to go into their hole and just not identify as a breast cancer survivor. They don't want to think about it. And some of them want to like scream from the mountaintops, I had breast cancer and I beat it. And other people are in the middle somewhere, and we have to respect all of that. So the acceptance of cancer in her life, this is a tough one. Some of us just have higher maintenance bodies than others. And you know, life is not fair. And that was never a plan. Like, it was never like, oh, here's your life and it's going to be fair from now on. Like, that was never promised to us, maybe by our parents, but not by life. And so this is your journey as a breast cancer patient. And so we have to process the grief and the fear, realizing this is the journey. It's the journey that you're on. There's nothing we can do about that journey, but you can still learn to find joy and pleasure and fun in the body as long as you claim it as yours and not this broken thing that's over there that is not serving you, right? Find ways to make the body serve you, because that's what it's there for, even if it did get a little sick. And then redefining sexuality and eroticism in her different body. You know, if nipples were a large part of her sex play and sexual pleasure in the past, what is she going to do now? What literally, like, what is she going to do to get herself in a place where she's feeling aroused? And when she does that thing, is it going to be itself a trigger that reminds her that she can't touch her nipples like she used to, or he can't? And so there's a lot of mind-body connections around pleasure. We have to move the mind-body connections from pain and fear to pleasure.
I connected up with Larry and Cheryl and become a Dave Elman trainer, and it changed my whole practice. I just loved the Dave Elman hypnosis. It made a huge difference to me. So we'll do this. Now, I've had quite dramatic results sometimes when I do this. Sometimes I'll do a free healing and hypnosis for people on Facebook Live, because, you know, during the lockdown, everyone is very stressed and people had quite amazing results. I wasn't sure I could do it for a big group of people, but I found it worked amazingly well. The only thing I found is some people would go very, very deep. And whatever I do by Zoom, if I do meditations, I'd always warn people to be sitting somewhere safely and comfortably. Don't be driving your car and listening to hypnosis, and especially my hypnosis, you'll not do very well. And sometimes people write emails and say, during the meditation or the hypnosis you were doing, usually people call it meditation with me, even though it's hypnosis. They said I had the severe pain in my chest. I'd had fractured ribs a day ago and I didn't know what to do. And it was so painful. And you started during your hypnosis, and I went to a deep sleep. Then I woke up at the end when you'd finished, and the pain was all gone, and I feel really, really good. So I was really happy.
Yes, I'm using me, myself, and I technique. From hypnotherapy, you just get along with plenty of techniques and stuff. So you just start using them on yourself. Almaning yourself into sleep, it made a huge change. Actually, I bet like 50% of the people here can Alman themselves into sleep. So you just close your eyes, do that test, count it 10 to 1, and then you're off you go. But me, myself, and I, parts therapy. As Bruno was saying, you can go for a walk or a drive, and you do that parts therapy inside yourself and change those emotions into understanding why the anger, what are you trying to get, what kind of fairness you want to get, the injustice you're just facing, if you're fear, what are you trying to protect yourself against. And these things, when you do them while you're driving or you're walking, running, or whatever, you may be playing Candy Crush, for heaven's sake, and when you Alman yourself, that will take effect. Your subconscious mind will keep working in the background. And actually that worked miracles, and because we go through plenty of stress in here, and and OCD is one of them. That's what basically comes in, to be in control, knowing all that information that is missing, that knowledge that is missing from that stress that you have, trying to just to like put that fence around you to know everything. I have to know everything before I do that exam, or to go to that job interview, or just pitch that sale, or whatever it is. So basically, at that moment in time, you just imagine that big red button, and like the industrial kind of, factory, stop, click it like that, and then you have 4 chairs turning, and you find yourself at the voice. No, that's a different thing. So basically, it's just putting that mechanism inside of yourself, instead of having like a self-sabotaging mechanism, of self-destruction mechanism on grinding over that thought. You just use that to your own advantage, and know what these emotions are meant to tell you.
So not sure if you know, so I'll explain. There are basically, emotional intelligence is the premise of 4 quadrants. The quadrants are self-awareness, meaning I am aware of my behavior. I'm aware of my triggers, more importantly, because the key to change is creating awareness. We can't change what we're not aware of. And so many people are driven by emotion. So emotional intelligence is actually a fusion of logical brain and emotional brain for the best possible outcome. So if you think about that, that's really what we do. We do that in hypnosis. We do that as hypnotists. We have people become aware. They may or may not be aware, and how to manage that. So the second quadrant of emotional intelligence is self-regulation. So within self-regulation, guess what that embodies? It embodies things like hypnosis, because there are many, many ways to help people regulate with hypnosis. Plus, it's also, you can bring in, NLP, you can bring in tapping, you can bring in mindfulness. There's all kinds of things you can do under the self-regulation quadrant. And then the third one is social awareness. So I was just listening to Don Spencer on micro expressions. And so social awareness is a huge, it's a huge quadrant of like picking up on, reading the audience. How are people feeling? Kind of picking up on their energy. And this is a real important component too of what we do in individual practice to really get in rapport with our clients. So, and then the fourth quadrant is on, how to like social, like empathy, regulation. And so those are the 4 quadrants. And so, as I said, each of those embody hypnosis.
What I love is to make sure that my clients have that great hypnotic experience on the first session, but have instant results. And I just have to tell you a funny story. So my girlfriend made her fiance come see me. And that was I forgot how she put it, but part of the contract to help him, because he was so stressed out and his children won't talk to him. And there was just so many, to do with the acts and all that. But anyway, So I don't know if you've been in my world, you're going to find out today, and hopefully if we have time, I'm going to share the 4 L's with you. But one of them is installing laughing at things that used to bother you. And so she told me the story. She said that he walked outside and he got frustrated about something, and then he started laughing. And that blew his mind, because he's like, oh, that shit works. So it was really an awakening for him after this session that helped him. And no matter what people are coming in for, I really feel like we need to build their confidence, but especially with anxiety and depression, we need them to, they're in that chronic stress state. And as hypnotists, we have this great tool called hypnosis, right? That just going into the state itself can reset the systems. Just going into the state, let alone what you do when you get there. And when I do that first session, I also do an induction where I incorporate, Dave Elman things into it as well. But I also do that. I'll just count backwards and have them imagine a soothing, healing, relaxing energy. And I go through that whole thing to a different type of progressive relaxation. And when the first time I was being guided into hypnosis, my teacher told me to imagine a soothing, relaxing energy. And after you do this for a while and you go to all these presentations and learn from wonderful people, I realized, and also because this is what I did the first time I was being guided into hypnosis. I'm like, why just imagine a soothing, relaxing energy? Why not imagine a soothing, relaxing, healing energy? Because so many people need healing. And so what I noticed was that people's pains would go away on that first session. And I think it had very much to do with the induction itself.
Now we're going to do a different body manipulation. Again, I want you to notice very carefully how it works, what makes it work inside of you. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to use one of your hands to lift the other hand by the thumb. That's right, just lift it up very gently. That's right, easily, just a couple inches is fine. Imagine as you're holding that hand, that arm up, that hand, imagine yourself going twice as deep as you are right now. And maybe even 4 times as deep as you are right now. I see there's a hand up. Keith, what you got? Or was that a thumb up anyway? What you got, Keith?
Yeah, it found its way. It was water because I'm at a desk, and so my hand landed, but it was heavy enough that it fell down, and then it fell down again, and then it fell down again. So I mean, I had three things in the way, but then it went off the chair and straight down.
And so your arm actually fell 3 times instead of once.
Yeah, right.
And how was that? That's an interesting way, and obviously an accidental way that worked out. But how did that feel for you to have it fall and then fall and then fall?
Well, the first time, because I do talk to my hands. So the first time, the instant thought was, stop doing things on your own. That's not what you were supposed to do. But then as soon as it hit my lap and then fell down, then I could just feel the stuff coming on my shoulders.
Okay, you better watch out though, because you know who's sneaking in right now. Erickson is sneaking in, and you must know, right? He's sneaking in with his mysterious, invisible, disappearing handshake. He's interrupting with the pattern interrupt program. You see what I mean? Yes, very good. Fell once, fell twice. Ooh, you see, that's a very Ericksonian Elman combination. I like it a lot.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing that with us, Keith.
I really like that cascading hand drop, and that made me think of trying that with someone with a regular hand drop. Oops. Speaking of dropping.
Yes, indeed.
I think I'm offline here almost, just about. Sorry.
A part of the induction, exactly. Although notice at first Keith is going, maybe I did it wrong. See what I mean? And so that's why, of course, the Dave Elman verbal approach, the voice tone of, yeah, that's good. See, they get to know that even if they do it their way, that's still good.
Right.
That, you see, is the Ericksonian Elman combination The combination of the Erickson's very invitational approach with the Dave Elman commands create a very powerful combination. Even though you would think of them as Keith might, as contradictory. Oh, darn, it fell too much. We weren't doing it right. It worked beautifully because my voice was saying good, twice as deep. This one also because you'll notice there's an actual relaxation that occurs, an actual movement. The more we can have the body of the client do an actual movement, the more powerful is the mental expectation that is instantly built up inside the body. You've heard the old expression. My parents, my dad was a rather hard-boiled minister here, and he thought all this belly gaze and stuff called hypnosis was just kind of weird and voodoo and visualization. But when you experience something in your body like this, and you feel the wave of it flowing through your body, this helps with the mental expectation. It helps with the skepticism when they can feel that instant change in their bodies.